Right from the word go, we always said different industries would handle Brexit in various different ways. Different problems would affect industries in a myriad of different ways. Some industries we thought that might be not have Brexit issues have become a very big Brexit issue. The UK cosmetics industry, for example, facing big problems because of Brexit, because its main export market is, of course, the EU. Why is this? Well, trade gravity. We've said before, you can't escape it. No matter what we do, we're not just going to, go sailing off into the Pacific and just start, I don't know, trading there with Indonesia and countries like that because, they're halfway around the world. Takes some time to get there. Especially when you can just send something across the channel. It used to take sometimes less than a week to get there. Now it's taking a lot more longer than that because of the paperwork, because of the checks that are now going to come in place, especially from April. And of course, the other big thing, the other big industry that has been affected by Brexit, very, very much so, the UK music industry. Now, your bigger artists, your bigger acts, your bigger entertainment industry bodies, just like manufacturing, if they are already a big sort of company, they can sort of handle Brexit. But as I've said before, there is an extra cost, not only in time, but also in the cost as well involved with now exporting. The paperwork itself, is not free. that paperwork costs as well. And the typical example I use is, I had a friend who worked in sort of big industrial manufacturing and exporting. It went from 10-minute piece of paper to 2 hours. And that was just for one load. And if you are a company that is sending multiple loads, well, those 2 hours can very, very quickly add up. And as well as that cost of that. And this is when we come to talking about the UK music industry, because their big problem is, again, the admin, the cost of the paperwork, the fact that the 90-day rule, 90 days in some cases, is just not long enough to be able to get a good, proper tour schedule booked in. You will then you look at tours, you see these bands go all over Europe, and it will be like heavily focused over like a 6 7 8 month period. And now, because of, again, the visa, the 90-day rule, we can't. And what makes this even worse is that the EU actually gave us, would you like, visa exemptions for people in the music industry, people who, are going to need this to travel around. The UK government turned around and went, no, thank you. And the dumb thing about this is culture is one of the one things like the UK does really well. And if any future government should heavily invest in the music and arts industry, because it would be very, very beneficial to the UK. It has a lot of jobs in the UK at the moment in sort of music, the creative, the arts, creates a lot of jobs, could create even more if we had a government that invested in the arts and believed in these really good things that deliver a lot culturally, not only here to the UK but around the world. I've talked before about investing in the BBC. I do really agree with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. If you've heard them on the rest is politics, their podcast that they do, they talk about we should invest in not only just the BBC but in the World Service as well. That would be very good sort of for the UK. And that stuff that it would sort of bring to the UK from the values that would bring. Again, it's just you look at these things, and especially when we've just had Channel 4 move to Leeds. Like not too long ago, Channel 4 just moved to Leeds. It's going to be its big, northern HQ. a lot of other businesses and production companies have either moved up from London or being created because of that move, because Channel 4 is now there in Leeds. It's brought a lot of jobs, especially in the TV industry wise, to that location, just as the move north did for the BBC over to Manchester. So it is something that we do really well, and yet I can't really explain why. Um, they don't. It doesn't really make sense. Um, from this point of perspective, why the government doesn't invest in it, but well, you could honestly ask that question about this government about many particular things. So I suppose it will be one of the great, probably unanswered questions of our age. But I do want to go over uh, this piece because it goes over some uh, musicians and the problems that they are having, from big to concert sort of conductors to even a soprano, and the problems that they are facing because of Brexit. So I think it's well worth having a look at their stories and see how Brexit is affecting them, because it's these three individuals, very very different circumstances, but this is a massive blow to sort of the UK music industry, a massive one. So before we get more into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Also down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can well buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club as well down below. So as always, let's crack on with this then, shall we? So this comes from the nationalworld.com. Talking about the new group, or at least the campaign that's been launched, called the Face the Music campaign by the European movement. Again, this to sort of highlight sort of the issues that that governments that the musicians are facing. But this is what it used to be like. So Ulga Hamilton remembered how easy it was for Alt J to tour around Europe when the band I was just starting out. Said, whenever we traveled outside the UK, we did it ourselves, he explained. All we had to do was book a hire van and then drive from wherever we were living, just and just go into Europe that way. That didn't mean we could do it without any hassle, without any extra costs, but it was amazingly little. Little did we know that it was something we should have been grateful for. The Mercury Prize winner had a #1 album with This Is All Yours, and said it was really worried about these new barriers for new acts, saying that it must be now much harder for these smaller artists to do all that for themselves. It's costly, it's a lot of admin. Because we've discussed this before, for each individual instrument, you've got to have paperwork for all your equipment, the amps, mic stands, anything else you might need when you go on tour, or you will then have to rent it while you're over there, and that may indeed have its own costs that then adds to your tour. He said, touring is musicians, um, biggest source of income by far these days. And if the government did want to help people in that position, they would be doing something about it, or at least try to make it at least one thing slightly more easier. But this is a very hard industry. And another person, this was a concert pianist, not concert pianist, a concert conductor that was doing this. This is how his entire career was affected. So up and coming musicians have also told the European movement about the burdens that Brexit has put on their career. James Hemshaw, a rising star and conductors of the UK classical music scene, was forced to move from London to Germany in 2020 over Brexit. He said, I was forced to choose between my job and my country, he said. I knew that if I wanted to continue working, I could not stay in the UK. I felt shut out. About 15% of my work before Brexit was in the UK, and the rest was from around the world, a lot from the EU. But after 2020, I could see all that EU work drying up, so I had to move. I had to keep working. Rachel Nichols, a freelance British soprano in the opera and concert world, currently starring in The Handmaid's Tale in London, said that since leaving the EU, her whole career has changed. I used to do at least 3 or 4 jobs in the EU every year, she said. But since Brexit, I've just done one job in 7 years. One job in 7 years. Massive change. And that's probably a big hit to um, her personal income as well. Which, again, not too dissimilar from when we're talking about another business or other businesses that we've talked about for the years, where they've lost about between 30 and 40% of their business. Kind of shocking in that when it comes to that. Um, so she said that those jobs are still there, but now they are going to artists who are not from the UK. The 90-day rule and the visas that you need just mean that UK musicians are just not considered anymore. It is too difficult to employ them, and I know so many people leaving the industry. What we are doing is a severe, irreparable damage to the UK music industry, and it is the younger people that I feel so sorry for. And that is ultimately what it was always going to be. We always said it would be smaller businesses, and in this case, the smaller artists, the up and coming artists that go through this. You've seen people like is it Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden? He was like massively pro Brexit, saying, "Oh, this'll never be a problem. It's going to be an absolute piece of cake. We'll keep on touring." On Sky News, just a couple of days ago, might have been a week ago now, depending on when this video comes out. He said how difficult it was to go and tour in Europe because of Brexit, and you're like, yeah. At the time, people were warning him. Like, people were warning him what was going to change, how it was going to be different. And it would not surprise me if his management also knew how difficult this was going to be and were keeping their mouths shut because they didn't want to upset him. Although, to be honest, Iron Maiden is that big a band, they have their own, tour whole kit and caboodle set up. So I suppose they don't have to sort of face the other hurdles that other, shall we say, big industry, figures might have to face. So, you know, but here he is, just a couple of years ago, complaining about Brexit, the problem it's created. When you can go back to 2016, and him saying, this is all not going to be a problem. It's all, hogwash. It's all just Project Fear. Although I don't know if he ever specifically said Project Fear, but again, another person who said Brexit wasn't going to be an issue. Turns out, you're complaining about all these, Brexit issues you're now facing. What a surprise. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.